Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely pumped to have you here today because we're going to get right down to business. Think of this as your direct one on one coaching session. Today, we're tackling a massive hurdle that pretty much everybody faces, but honestly, practically nobody talks about: conquering your very first income stream. We're going to break down exactly why it feels so unbelievably difficult to just get started, and more importantly, how you can finally push through that friction. So get comfortable, lock in, and let's get started.
So I want to kick things off by asking you a question, and I really need you to answer this honestly. What would your life look like if your income didn't stop when you stopped working? Seriously, sit with that for a second. Don't treat it like some faraway fantasy, but as a practical, everyday reality. What would actually change for you? Would you stay in your current day job? Would you finally book that trip you've been putting off for 3 years now? Would you start saying no to the things that just absolutely drain you so you could finally say yes to the things that actually matter? You know, when you sit with this uncomfortable question long enough, you realize the life you really want isn't a million miles away. Literally, the only thing standing between you and that life is the first income stream that you just haven't built yet.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at two totally different scenarios. Picture person A and person B. They're the exact same age, they live in the exact same city, and they had the exact same starting point in life. But look at their current situations. Person A has 3 distinct income streams going: a dividend portfolio paying out every single quarter, a digital product that's basically selling while he sleeps, and a rental property that completely covers its own costs and then some. Now let's look at person B. Person B has exactly 1 income stream, his monthly salary. And without fail, every single month, that salary completely disappears before he even has a chance to figure out what to do with it. It's the exact same starting point, but wildly different financial realities. Now, looking at person A's incredibly impressive setup there, I've got a quick trivia question for you. Out of the dividend portfolio, the digital product, and the rental property, what was the absolute hardest income stream person A ever built? Take a guess. Which one required the most grit, the most late nights, the most sheer brute force willpower? It was the first one. Yeah, it wasn't the third one, and it wasn't the second one. The very first income stream is always the hardest. And the reason why is actually pretty fascinating. It's because that very first stream had to be built with absolutely zero proof that it would ever actually work. Think about it. Person A had no previous experience to fall back on. He had no evidence from his own life that pulling this off was even possible for someone like him. That first income stream was built entirely, 100%, on pure belief. And as we all know, sustaining belief before you have any concrete evidence staring you in the face, that's easily one of the hardest things in the world to do. Now, when people fail to build that first stream, they usually blame a few common culprits. You've probably heard them. They say the work is just too hard. But it's not the work. Work is manageable. I mean, most people already work insanely hard at their day jobs and totally know how to put in the effort. Or they say it's a lack of time, but it's not the time. Sure, it takes time, but we always somehow find time for the things we're genuinely committed to, right? And then they say they don't have the cash. But honestly, it's not the money either. Some of the most powerful, lucrative first income streams out there cost almost nothing to get off the ground. So if it isn't the work, and it isn't the time, and it isn't the money, what makes this so cruelly difficult? So the crucial point is, the crucial killer of dreams is something called the identity gap. This is the psychological exhaustion of acting like someone you have not yet become before having any proof that you can actually become them. Think about it for a second. When you already have an income stream, building a second one feels totally natural because you're already someone who does that. But when you've never built one, every single step requires you to basically play make-believe. You have to make investment decisions before you actually feel like a real investor. You have to create content before you feel like a real creator. You are literally acting like someone you aren't yet, and that psychological friction is just absolutely exhausting. That's exactly why people quit. The identity feels like it belongs to somebody else. And this brings us to a massive psychological reframe that changes absolutely everything. The myth we all fall for is that identity comes before action. We tell ourselves, actually, scratch that. We convince ourselves, once I feel like an investor, then I'll start investing. But the reality is the exact opposite. Identity comes from action. You don't magically become a creator and then start creating. You start creating, and through doing that action over and over, you eventually become a creator. The person who successfully builds that first stream doesn't magically have the right identity on day one. No way. They're simply the person willing to take action without it, pushing through the sheer awkwardness long enough for their identity to finally catch up. So, what does this actually look like in the wild? Let's walk through the exact relatable timeline of building your first stream. Spoiler alert, it is not a steady upward climb. Week 1, excitement. You're moving, you're building, everything feels amazing. Week 3, confusion. The path gets a little blurry, unexpected decisions keep popping up. Week 6, doubt. The results are definitely not matching your intense effort. Month 3, the wall. Nothing is working right, the voice in your head telling you to quit is screaming at you, and everyone else just relaxing on the couch is looking suspiciously comfortable. And then, month 6, the choice. Listen, this is the timeline of struggle, and if you've failed here before, validate yourself right now. It is a completely normal part of the journey. Let's really focus on that month 6 marker for a second, because this is the make or break moment. At month 6, you face a choice. You can quit, and honestly, this is where most people do. Or you make a very, very rare decision. You decide to trust the process, even when the process has given you absolutely no reason to trust it yet. This specific decision, made with no evidence and zero guarantees, is exactly what separates the actual builders from the people who just talk about building. I'm curious, where are you right now? Drop a comment below. Are you at week 1, month 3, month 6, or are you still just kind of thinking about starting? Let us know. We read all of them. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when you finally push past that month 6 wall and survive the gap. Step 1, you build that first stream. Even if it generates just a tiny, tiny amount of traction, it's real. Step 2, because it's real, your identity shifts permanently. You aren't acting anymore, you are now officially someone who builds income streams. Step 3, because that identity gap has totally vanished, your second stream takes half the time to build. The work itself doesn't magically get easier, but you have fundamentally changed. Your new identity compounds right alongside your income. It's amazing. Let's move to and see how this builds into immediate practical action using an income stream matrix. Do not just pick the stream that sounds the flashiest. You've got to pick the one that honestly matches your current reality so you can remove as much friction as possible. Look, if you have time but no money, lean into content, digital products, or monetizing your skills. If you're the exact opposite, you have money from your salary but zero time, look at index funds, dividend stocks, or real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs. And if you're lucky enough to have both, combine them. The whole key here is to start with the path of least resistance based on your actual life right now. Now, once you picked your stream, here is the ultimate, absolute, non-negotiable challenge. 12. You must commit to this for exactly 12 months, not just until it works, not until you feel confident. 12 months, full stop. You are giving yourself a strict 1-year runway to act before you become, to push through the excitement, the doubt, the wall, and the choice without giving yourself any permission whatsoever to quit. As you embark on those 12 months, you're going to need a survival guide for navigating this gap. First, as we just established, honor that 12-month commitment. Second, and this is absolutely vital, fully expect to feel like a total imposter. Every time you feel like you're pretending to be someone you're not, just remind yourself that every single successful builder felt exactly the same way at the start. And third, keep going anyway. The people who made it through weren't magically blessed with more confidence than you. They literally just kept acting until the reality finally caught up with them. We're going to wrap up today's explainer with this one thought. Building your first income stream is incredibly hard, but not because of the work, the time, or the money. It's hard because of who you have to become before you actually feel ready to become them. But remember this ultimate truth about becoming. It doesn't happen before you start. It happens because you start. So whatever stream you chose today, start acting, start building. I promise you the evidence will follow. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. But before you go, I want you to ask yourself, if you don't start your 12 months today, whose identity are you going to be living a year from now? Think about it. I'll see you next time.